Welcome back to this, my second commission video. Once again, this is going to be for Not a Cynic. I covered Alice in Chains' Sea of Sorrow from him a few weeks back, and this time he wanted me to do a breakdown on Grand Funk, Mr. Limousine Driver. And that's very cool because it occurred to me Grand Funk is not a band I've really covered on my channel yet. I don't know, they may have received a passing mention somewhere, but definitely never a feature like this. So this will be fun. And don't forget, if there's a song you want me to break down or a subject you want me to cover, hit me up at mjerant.com, send me an email, and we can work out the details on the subject and the payment. Trust me, this is a very minimal payment that I would require to do this. All right, let's get into it.
Hey, I'm Mr. Limousine Driver, can I ask you a favor, please? Letter in my door and don't look back here no more.
Released in November 1969, Hey Mr. Limousine Driver was the first single from Grand Funk Railroad's second album, simply entitled Grand Funk and commonly referred to as the Red Album for obvious reasons. The Red Album was the group's first album to go platinum. Their debut record, On Time, had gone gold. And fun fact here, 4 months only separated the release of this album from the release of the group's debut album. I've talked about this before on my channel, but I think it's just hilarious and really cool how these bands used to just crank them out back in the day. You would never see output on this scale today. But in spite of the album's success, the single itself was not a good performer. It only reached number 97 in the States, 92 in Canada. It didn't even chart in the UK or Australia. And honestly, this is indicative of a pattern that pretty much held throughout the band's career. Huge in the States, big in Canada, not so big everywhere else. And you know, I suppose it kind of makes sense. Grand Funk were always the quintessential blue-collar, no-frills, hard-working, Midwestern American rock and roll band. They hailed from Flint, Michigan, and maybe the proximity to the Canadian border explains some of the bleed over into that country. To be fair, they did eventually manage to do some decent sales in Australia, and their first live album charted reasonably well in the UK. But let's not forget, we're talking about a band whose best remembered tune is literally called We're an American Band. So maybe that was just a bit too much for our friends across the pond. We get a great little power chord intro here. The song is in E, so we start with an E5 down to B5. That's a 1-5 move, hugely common, of course. Then they take that same little 1-5 move and just bump it up a half step. So E5, B5 becomes F5, C5. And the cool thing is when they go from the B to the F, that's a flat 5. F is the flat 5 of B, which adds a very dramatic feel to this thing. And I'm not sure, but I think guitarist Mark Farner employs a cool little power chord trick here. Farner, of course, also the lead vocalist, overall leader of the band, you would have to say. This song, by the way, is solely credited to him as songwriter. But you guitarists will know about this. There's a cool trick where you play a power chord. Normally an E power chord would be E on the bottom and the fifth note B up above. Sounds great. Well, what you can do is stack a little extra fifth on the bottom. You put a B on the bottom, so now it's B, E, B, the roots in the middle and the 2/5 on either side. And it just gives a heavier sound. Listen to the difference. It's subtle, but it's cool. So here's the standard, and now adding the fifth on the bottom. It's kind of got a beautifully ugly sound. Again, just heavier. I believe he tacks that on every one of these power chords. Now, bass player Mel Scotcher is just playing the root notes along, but I swear I hear this. Maybe some of you guitar players out there can tell me if you agree. And honestly, if he didn't do it, I think he should have. And I'm sure Mark Farner is very concerned with what I have to say about this. And then we get to the main riff, which is basically built around three stupid chords, E, A, and D. And I don't mean stupid in a derogatory way. How many rock and roll classics have been built around those three chords? This riff always gives me the same kind of vibe as what Joe Walsh did on Funk 49. That very loose, sloppy, lots of choke strums and open strings. So cool. Now, Funk 49 appeared in the following year, 1970. So it's very possible that he was trying to cop that sort of vibe. The riffs are really not that much alike, but it's just the feel that is similar to me. It's a great raunchy riff, right in keeping with the, I guess you'd say, somewhat raunchy lyrics, probably more suggestive than anything else. Hey, Mr. Limousine Driver, can I ask you a favor, please? Let her in my door and don't look back here no more. I know you can do it with ease. I love the final verse. Hey, Mr. Limousine Driver, I know you know where it's at. Tomorrow will be later. You just read your evening paper and don't worry about what's going on in back. I wonder what they were planning on doing back there. I don't know. It's 1969. Maybe they were going to discuss the Nixon administration, the Vietnam War. I guess we'll never know. In what I've always thought was a very cool move, they bring back the intro chords for the chorus. So it's the E, B, F, C bit again, only this time Farner is singing the chorus. It really kind of ties the whole thing together.
Can you hear what I'm saying? It's not like I'm praying, you know, because you've done it before. So why make me wait, please? Don't hesitate, just get back here and let her in my door.
I'm a huge fan of those harmony vocals there. That's one of the many things about modern rock or pop music, whatever you want to call it, that annoys me. At some point, harmony vocals just more or less disappeared. I think it started to happen in the 90s, maybe, somewhere around there. Even some of the better groups of that period, you know, the grunge bands, Alice in Chains being a big exception, as I mentioned in my Sea of Sorrow video. Oasis, right? Some of the better bands of that era, they don't really do the harmony vocals. But here we've got Mark Farner doing the lead, and I'm assuming it's drummer Don Brewer doing the high harmony. Farner was definitely the main lead vocalist of this group, but Brewer was the singer on, as I mentioned, the band's biggest hit, We're an American Band. It's a song that he wrote, and I guess he was determined to sing it. Kind of reminds me of Peter Criss in Kiss, their drummer, singing what I believe is still their biggest hit, Beth. This melody is a great example of something that has always fascinated me. He takes a very simple three-note melody and repeats it over two different chords. So over the E chord, we get B, C sharp, D. That's 5th, 6th, flat 7th. It's got a great bluesy sort of mixolydian feel. Now, the more obvious choice might have been to go something like this and land on the root of the E chord, but that's a little bit too vanilla for my taste. Much more bluesy there. Now, when the chord changes to B, he hits the same three notes, but now B is the root, C sharp is the 2, and D is the flatted third. I love it. Same notes, but totally different intervals and therefore totally different sounds over the E as opposed to the B. Listen to the difference here. Now, sometimes a band will continue, right? Maybe the same three notes over a whole series of chords. That wasn't going to happen here because that abrupt move to F, these notes weren't going to work over that F chord because we've shot outside of the key. So instead he goes to a C there. And the harmony is just doing a third above, minor third or major third as appropriate. But then there's this brilliant little twist. To this day, I have no idea whether it was intentional or if maybe Farner just kind of felt it and went for it. That wouldn't surprise me. But the second time through, he starts the melody not on the flat 7D. He lands a half step below. It's the part where he sings, "Why make me wait?" Right? Can you hear it? It's very subtle, but the interesting thing is the harmony lands on the same note as before, this little F sharp. So what was a major third over the D is now a perfect fourth over the C sharp. And every time I hear it, it kind of makes me start a little bit like, oh, it's almost off, but it's actually really cool.
So why make me wait? Please don't hesitate.
So let's talk about Mark Farner's guitar solo. It's largely E minor pentatonic, as you would probably expect, but he includes a C sharp note in there. That's the major sixth of E, and that gives the solo a distinct Dorian minor feel. A typical minor scale includes a flatted sixth. The major sixth is indicative of Dorian. Very cool note. Listen to it. But maybe the coolest thing about this solo is the tone that Farner gets. Let's listen to the man himself. It's that great late 60s, early 70s fuzz tone sound. To be honest, it reminds me a lot of Neil Young's solo work, similar to the sound he gets on that old 1953 Les Paul with the Bigsby vibrato, affectionately known as Old Black. And not just the sound, but the playing style, sort of primitive, you might even say ham-fisted, but filled with so much emotion. The way that Farner grabs onto a certain note and just really digs in. Very Neil Young, right? And I suspect a huge element in Farner's tone here is the fact that he was playing a very unusual guitar around this time in an age when just about everyone was playing Strats, Les Pauls, and Tellys through Marshall or high-watt amps. Farner was playing something called a 1967 Musicraft Messenger with a hollow aluminum body and a built-in distortion circuit called a tone messer. And in another unconventional move, Farner apparently favored West Labs amps. Now, I'm assuming the Musicraft Messenger is what was used on this recording. But again, any Grand Funk Railroad aficionados out there, feel free to educate me if I'm wrong on that. Now, I've never actually seen one of these guitars in the wild, so to speak, but according to my cursory glance on eBay, if you want to pick one up, it's going to run you anywhere from maybe $3,500 to $5,000. So apparently someone still likes them. So all in all, not one of the better known Grand Funk tunes, but certainly one of my favorites. I absolutely prefer it to the mega hit cover tunes, Some Kind of Wonderful and Locomotion. I think this tune really captures what Grand Funk was all about far better. As always, I want to hear what you guys think. I know for a fact there are a bunch of you out there who have seen Grand Funk live back in the day. Please tell me about it. I love to hear about your experiences back from those times when I was really too young to be going to concerts. Thanks for hanging out till the end, and we'll see you next time.